this APR will change. So all of the HUD data standards for all the federal partners is changing on October 1st. And so all of the federal reports, the APR, the ESG CAPA, the PAF report, et cetera, is going to change as well. So if you have a grant that ended in August or July that hasn't been submitted into SAGE, you need to try to do that before October 1st, because on October 1st, every client in the system is going to have to be updated if they're open, with no exceptions. So this is probably the last year that this APR is going to apply to the scoring sheet, because a lot of the questions on this report are going to look different. I just want to throw that out there since we have so many people on the call and just looking at the different agencies and everything. I just wanted to throw that in there at the beginning. So the current APR that we're going to look at today, I'm going to go through the questions here. I'll try to remember what the section on the scoring sheet for everybody is, so I can tell you exactly where it's at on the scoring sheet and how it pulls in. And we're going to use a combination of agencies or whatever, because I wanted to make sure they had some families and things on here. The majority of the programs now on the ranking sheet is Rapid Rehousing and PSH. So this is a lot of PSH and Rapid data. There's going to be a few things that apply to some other programs. I'll talk about those when I get to those sections, okay? All right, so let's get started. So I just ran the report. If you want to run it, if you want to log in and run it, follow along, that's fine. So the first thing is your report validation table. It's going to show you your total number of clients here, which is just a combination of the people entering during the year and any carryovers from the previous year. So you got your number of adults, number of children, number of persons with unknown age, how many leavers you had in the program. So this is how many people exited. In this scenario, in this report I built here is 35 people. And then out of that, how many are adult leavers? So most of the measures are only for adults. So it separates the adult leavers and then the adult head of household leavers. So we have 23 adult leavers, 23 adult head of household leavers. There's 104 people that stayers in the program. I mean, they carry it over to the next year. We have veterans. How many are chronic? How many are youth under age 25? How many parenting youth under age 25? Now this section here, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are part of section 9 on the scoring sheet, which is your barriers to homelessness would be the chronic number, and then your special populations, priority populations, or your veterans, your youth, and then domestic violence, which is a little further down on question 13, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 14. It's one of those. We ain't there yet. Anyway, the youth, veterans, and DV are your priority populations. And then the chronic number is your barriers to housing. That's going to be 9A on the scoring sheet. I'll talk more about that when we get to question 15. Okay, so that's your first table. It's just the number of clients and how they break out into populations here. Then you get to number 6, A through E is your data quality, okay? So the way this is scored, it's going to be the overall score from 6A which is the combination of all of these sections together: the name, social security, date of birth, race, ethnicity, and gender. So you'll have an overall score here with a percentage there. I know that there's some programs that don't collect the full social. If that's your agency policy and you get a score here and you put that in there and you lose points there, you need to contact your contract manager and let them know about that. If that's something that you can't really, because I know that there's some agents that only do the last 4 digits and some don't collect it at all. But the score is going to come from here, because these are the personally identifiable information. All right, so you get the overall score here. And then 6B is the universal data elements data quality. So it's veteran status, project start date, which if they're on a report, this would probably always be 0%. Then you have your relationship, the head of household, which I don't think is on the sheet, but you need to answer that, because if you don't have a head of household answered, then none of the data for any of the other reports we do gets pulled in there without an answer. So if you're serving families, you have to make sure that when you put self as the relationship for the parent, if you have the children included, you need to go in and answer head of household child, head of household spouse, head of household partner, whatever the other household members are in relation to that particular record. So this should, as far as we're concerned, always be 0. There shouldn't be anybody with relationship to head of household missing. Okay. Client location as well, that's always LA-503 for anybody in our COC. There shouldn't be anybody here missing client location. And then disabling condition. If the disabling condition has an error, sometimes that means that either the yes or no question wasn't answered. So, at the top of the intake sheet, it actually have a disability of a long duration. If you put no there, fine. If you put yes at the top, then you need to have a disability type under the disability assessment. If you put yes for disability, but don't put what the disability is, then this is going to show up as an error. Okay. So whatever you answer on the question, the responses in the sub-assessments have to match. Okay. So if you run it and you have errors here, you can fix those and then just rerun a report and update your scoring sheet. Okay. And if for whatever reason, if you can't, if you fix something and it still doesn't change from this section, just let us know and we'll take a look at it. 6C is the income and housing data quality. So the destination data element, that's based on if you have clients that have unknown, no exit interview completed, anybody that may have like abandoned a unit or something, and you put like unknown, it's going to show up here as an error count because technically their destination is missing, even if it says unknown. Okay. So if you have anybody here, that's probably why. Then you have your income sources at start, which is the yes or no questions. When the clients first come in the system, and actually if they have a income, you put yes or no there. If you put no, then the records in the sub-assessment have to say no. If you put yes, then you have to put an income value. If you put yes under the question and you don't put the actual income in, you're going to get errors here. So normally, if you click on this, it'll show you what clients are not are in this category. These are real clients, so I'm not going to click on it, but if you click on it, it'll show the name. You can go in and adjust those. Okay. Income sources at annual assessment means that you have clients that have been in the program at least a year and you haven't done an annual assessment on their data. So this report is designed to track performance from over the course of the reporting period, and it pulls in the client data once they reach at least a year anniversary in the program or they exited. So once they get to anniversary in the program, you have to go in and basically revalidate the information that's on the assessment. So if a client has income or doesn't have income, either way, you have to go in and do an annual assessment a day before their anniversary date and basically tell the system this same information applies to the clients. Okay, if you have errors here in this section for the income and sources and annual assessment, the income questions on question 19 is going to be incomplete. Okay, so even if you went in and put income updated for a client, if a client got an increase in like their benefits or they started working during the year, if you don't do the annual assessment here, that's not gonna fill into the income table. You're not gonna get credit for those clients having an increase in income. Okay, so this shouldn't be any errors here on the income and annual assessment. Shouldn't be any errors here at all for any of these. Income and sources at exit is the same thing. Usually that means that the error was here at the beginning and then they just exited with the same error. So these 4 people exited the program, but the income questions, the assessments and the yes or no questions didn't match. Okay, so I think the income, well, we'll talk about the income later. So this is all part of section 8 on the scoring sheet is the data quality piece. All right, they're based on the numbers you put in there, it'll score those sections. Question 7. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped timeliness. How could I do that? So timeliness.
Excuse me, Cliff, before you go forward, you have
Mhm.
one question of someone asking where exactly is the annual assessment found in HMIS?
So you go to the entry exit tab, there's a, a, a I think it's a sheet of paper. It's a little icon next to the entry on the entry exit tab. When you press that, you're gonna get an interim. The interim box is gonna pop up. And when you press add interim review, there's different choices in there. One is the update, which you can do at any time. And then I think there's 60, 90, and 180-day reviews. And then there's a type in there that says annual assessment. So you would go in, use the day before the anniversary date, put the annual assessment in. You're going to get a annual assessment tab that shows your income. I think insurance is in there, move-in date, non-cash benefits, I think is in there as well. And so if the client has a change in income, you can do it at annual assessment, or you can just update it at any time during the year. But you need to do the annual assessment regardless if anything's changed, because that basically just refreshes that information for the next grant year that we're going into. So yeah, go enter exit tab. There's an interim icon. You press the icon, and then you'll get the interim pop-up box will come up, and you can pick annual assessment from there. That was the only question, Shago?
Yes, that was the only question.
All right. So timeliness is part of that data quality piece as well. Let me make sure, guys. I'm trying to find the number this year. So, all right, AB, data timeliness, and what we want is the number less than 7 days. So the way it's broken down on the report is 0 days, 1 to 3 days, and then 4 to 6 days. 7 to 10 days and 11 plus days. So this is basically the actual day and time that you logged in and entered the client's information, right? So under this scenario, the majority of clients in this program, their entry date was put in the same day as they received a referral, right? So today is August 17th. If you got the referral on the 17th and you logged in today and added a client on the 17th, they're all going to be hearing on 0 days. That means you did them on the same day. Obviously, do it tomorrow, August 18th, you put August 17th, it's going to be in 1 to 3 days, so on and so forth. Okay. So it tracks the number of projects start records and the timeliness for them, and then the number of project exit records, and then the timeliness for those as well. So if this was one program, they would get credit for this 24 exits. They would not get points for these 11, that's 11 plus days, because that means a client had been exited and they didn't go in and close them probably after. Usually this is way more than 11 days when somebody's here. So you want to try to have everybody in. Our goal is 24 hours for housing programs. It was 7 days for like supportive service programs and everything like that. So coordinated entry, problem solving, anybody in that category, 0 to 4 to 6 days is fine. Our goal is the COC is 24 hours for housing programs, but this year on the score, and I'm looking at it right now, if you just have less than 7 days, you're still good. So I think that's fine. And this is the one record that you can't change because it's literally a timestamp for the day that you're actually logging in. So sometimes people ask us about this. We can't do anything about the time in this one, unless you change the date on the record. But then that might not be the best thing either, based on what, how long it's been since the person was in the program. So whatever your score is here, that's probably what it's going to be, because we can't do anything about those records. Okay. 6F is just street outreach and emergency shelter. We won't talk about that today. 7 is the number of persons served. So it just breaks down how many adults, how many children, and then how many households with children, how many households with adults, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're a housing program, it's also going to show you how many persons moved into housing from the numbers that you have. So that means that in this scenario, there's 139 people entered into the program, but only 118 have a housing move-in date. Okay, so that's what it's showing you here. Like how many people you've entered into the project, but how many people have moved in to a unit since they've been entered. So the reason why the move-in date is important here in question 7, A and B, is because as you get further down into the report, it's not gonna count those people in some of your data if they don't have a move-in date. Okay, so 7 is just the overall number of people in the program. 8 is the number of households that those people make up. So there's 139 total people, but it's 115 households in this scenario. And then you can see how many have without children, and then how many households with children and adults. If you serve families, and everybody should be in a household with at least one adult and one child, you shouldn't have anybody in this first column without children. That's a sign that something is incorrect, because this means that the children are not attached to the record. So sometimes there's head of households in there, and the children are not there. Also, if you put children in and you don't have the correct date of birth in for the children, if it doesn't know their date of birth, it's just going to default them to adults, and you're going to either get unknown household type, or they'll all be here under households without children. Okay, so anybody serving families, you need to make sure that everybody has a date of birth in there so they can all fit in this category here. All right, so this is the total number of households, 8A. And then you get to 8B, which is the utilization, which is section 3 on the scoring sheet. Okay, so the way this works on the scoring sheet and when you submit your APR into Sage, so there's an inventory that everybody has based on the grant inventory sheet and the housing inventory chart. They all have a certain number of units. And the way HUD measures that utilization for your program is on the last Wednesday in January, April, July, and October. So if this program, let's say they had their total inventory was 90 beds. So on January they had 85 of 90 filled. In April they had 89 of 90 filled. July they had 87 of 90 filled. In October they had 84 of 90 filled. So this is how it measures the utilization throughout the year. And then it's going to give you a percentage for each point in time period for those quarters during the year. So this is based on the entry and exit and how many people have a move-in date. So if you look at those numbers for your grant and you think they look wrong or too low, it may have something to do with the move-in dates or the dates in the program. But that's where that number's pulling from, and that goes in the section 3. It's also question 4 in Sage when you're doing the APR. So I know we have some people on this call that have direct grants that they do themselves. I'm just trying to cover all bases since we're on the call together. That's where the number comes from, question AB on the APR. Question 9 is the number of persons contacted. This is for outreach. If you don't have an outreach grant, you're just going to get zeros here. If you do have an outreach grant, then you'll have something here with the engagements and the contacts. We'll scroll past that. Question 10 is the gender of adults in the program. 10B is the gender of children. C is just the gender of persons missing the age or information. If everybody's got the age in there, they shouldn't have anything in it. 11 is just the age breakdown of everybody in the program. Question 12 is the race of everyone in the program. The racial disparities section of the application ranking is section 10B. And this is where you'll get those numbers from here. One of the things the Racial Equity Task Force did was we were suggested lowering that number from 7 points last year to 5 to make it not as if an agency so happens to have a certain percentage. I'm not going to say what the percentage is because I'm not 100% sure what the threshold is on the scoring sheet. And I don't want to derail the conversation, but this is where the number's going to come from. So 12 is just a race, and that's for section 10B of the scoring for racial disparities, as well as 12B for ethnicity as well. So you'll put those numbers in there, Hispanic or non-Hispanic. Okay. Section 13 of the APR is disabilities. So 13A just shows you the disabilities of everybody at the start of the program. 13B1 is the disabilities for everyone that's exited the program. And then you have 13C1, that's the conditions for stayers in the program. So that's all the people that's going to carry over to the next year. And then 13A2 is the number of conditions that start. And then that is part of the 9A, the severity of barriers of participants on the scoring sheet. So you would put in the people with more than with 2 or 3 plus conditions into that part of the scoring sheet. That's where that number is going to come from, 13A2. All right. And then 13B2 is just a number, the same thing, but for the clients that's exiting the program. And then C2 is the same thing for the stairs into the program, which is the people that carried over from the previous year. Section 14 or question 14 is domestic violence history. That is question 9B or section 9B on the scoring sheet. So to show you how many clients in the program answer yes to having a DV history. And then 14B would be the number of clients that were fleeing domestic violence. So you will pull that number here, this number that's yes, if you have any there, and then anybody that's yes here in 14B, and then that would fill out the rest of the priority populations on section 9B of the application. Okay. 15 on the APR is the prior living situation of clients when they enter the program. So it's broken down by homeless situations, which is all your literally homeless people, obviously a shelter, transitional, place not meant for habitation, safe haven, and then host home non-crisis. So it'll show you how many people came from a shelter, how many placement of habitation, so on and so forth here. And then your institutional settings. So how many people came to the program from a hospital, substance abuse, etc., jail, foster care, whatever the case may be. And then you have your other locations, which is your permanent housing, rental by client, so on and so forth. If your program have transfers that came from either another PSH program that were in Rapid and came to your program, or from one Rapid to another Rapid program, what is usually not apply for Rapid. This is more PSH. If you have a grant, if your project is supposed to serve chronically homeless individuals and you have transfers and you put them under permanent housing for formerly homeless, which is the correct response, you're not going to get, they're not going to be listed as chronic on question 5, because in order to fit the definition for chronic, they have to be in a shelter or place not meant for habitation or safe haven for them to be chronic. So if you have, let's say, 50 clients and they're all chronic, but you took, let's say, 5 transfers from another program, and when you run the APR, if you only get like 45 in that section versus damn, he continued, it took me all the way out of my question. If you only get 5 in that, if you lose points for not having the full 5 there, just make a note of that when you submit the submit your scoring sheet, because it's not going to pull into the APR, because it's when they get, if they show this permanent housing for formerly homeless, it's all the report is it's not going to pull them in there as chronic. Okay. So that's for people who have transfers from Rapid or from another PSH program into theirs who may lose points from that. If you put them as rental with no subsidy or something like these other categories, then you probably need to go back and update the prior living situation for them, because you're not going to get credit for those people. Those are probably, in my head, if I was looking at this for somebody doing the programs, I would tell them that this is probably not right. I mean, I guess there's some circumstance where somebody might have been staying with a friend or family But if everybody's supposed to be chronic, then you won't get credit for those. Okay. How can you update current living condition situations for clients who are still enrolled in the program? So you go back to the entry. I'm just answering the question from the chat. You go back to the pencil on the entry and you can change the prior living situation to what most accurately fits that client if somebody put the wrong thing. It won't affect your timeliness to change a question. It only affects the timeliness if you change the date. So if you change the date, then it's going to mess your timeliness up. But once everything is saved, then you can go into the entry and change whatever you want. And it won't affect the timeliness at all. So you won't be like making one issue, trying to fix another issue. I hope that answered your question, David. So so that's question 15. And that's what's important about the scoring sheet as it relates to like chronic homelessness, things like that. Question 16 is just your cash income for clients in the program. So it's just a breakdown of how many had no income and what the dollar amounts was here for people in your program. 17 is the cash income sources for those same clients. So it's just a breakdown of how many people had earned income, how many had unemployment, Social Security, so on and so forth there. Question 18 is the client income, earned income category by start annual assessment. So this is basically just showing you how many people had a category, how many had income at entry, how many picked it up at annual assessment, left with it, so on and so forth. So we get ready to talk about the income in question 19, which is like one of the main parts of the scoring here, but I want to show you how to read that based on what's in question 18. So when you look at question 16, 17, and 18, you'll see there's these two categories right here. There's a number of adult stayers who have not yet required to have an annual assessment. And then there's a number of adult stayers without the required annual assessment. Okay, so the number of adult stayers not yet required means that those clients haven't been in the program long enough for their income to pull into the income chart. Because the report, like I said, is designed to track performance yearly. So even if you have clients that gained income a few months into the program, until they get to a year, you're not going to get credit for those people having income. You'll get credit next year for those people when their anniversary date comes up. So when you're looking at the income chart, if you don't see certain people, it's probably because they're in this number here where it says adults not yet required to have annual assessment, because they're just not going to be in question 19 at all. The number of adult stayers without required annual assessment is the same as the number of adults that have the income error for annual assessment. So remember we talked about if you don't have the annual assessment, it's not going to populate those into the record. So if you have anybody here, you need to correct them, because if you have income there, or if the client has gained income during that time, if you don't put the assessment in, then you won't get credit for them either. So the first group, they're not going to populate at all, and they shouldn't. The second group should be populating, but they won't because you don't have the annual assessment in there. So they're going to make the income chart incomplete if you don't update that. Okay. So when you run it, if you look at that, if you have anybody there or anybody in 6C for the income, then you have to fix those first before you look at your income chart in question 19, because then you might be losing points that you don't have to lose because the data isn't updated properly. So we'll move on to question 19, which is the income table. This is section 4 of the scoring sheet. And I'm looking at the sheet, y'all, while I'm talking. That's why I keep going over there, so I can make sure I explain it right. Yes, Camilla, that does apply to Rapid if they've been there a year. So if they've been in Rapid over a year, you have to do the annual assessment to pick up their information for the report. If they exited before the year, then it doesn't matter because it'll just pick up all the exits. It'll pick up the exit information when they exit. So exits don't matter, but if you have clients that's been in Rapid over a year, then you need to do the annual assessment to update their information. But that should show in question 6 when you run the report if they was. They'll let you know how many need the annual assessment from that error in the annual assessment part on question 6. All right. So the income tables. There's 2 tables, one for the stairs, which is the start and later status. And then the second table is for the leavers, the start and exit. So it's A1 and A2. It shows you how many clients had income and did not have it at annual assessment. So this is somebody that probably actually lost their income. How many retained their income and had less? So I guess if somebody was working and for whatever reason was making less money, I actually haven't seen anybody in this category. I'm sure there's somebody have that or when it updated that for their clients. How many people retained their income and had the same at annual assessment? So if client was working and he just made the same amount all year long, that would fit this category. Or if somebody had SSI or SSDI, what have you, and it was the same amount from one year to the other, if they didn't receive any type of increase, then they would fit in this category here. The categories you get credit for or retain category and increase that annual assessment, right? So so like this would be for people who were working and increased their income. And then this 13 under other income would be people who got an increase in their fixed benefits. So they got an increase in their disability, SSI, what have you. I think child support fits in here. I forgot the other categories, but anything other than income besides work, besides employment income fits in this category. And then your total number who've increased it out of everybody. So you could have somebody who's working and had an increase in some other non-cash income. So this number is a combination of everybody. So this is the total out of these categories here. Now remember, some of these might not match up because I don't have the 17 that's missing the annual assessment, but I'm just showing you how everything is pulling in here. And then this did not have category and gained it. So these would be people who like wasn't working at all when they entered your program and now they are working. They should be in this category right here. And then you're going to have your total number of adults that didn't have income at start and they still don't have it at the annual assessment. So in this table, this would be 66 adults that's in this table. And then 33 of them met the measure. So that would be 50% of the clients in this program that had an increase in income right now. But if I do the annual assessments, this is going to change all those numbers. So, But this is how it reads. So you're going to put the total number of adults into the chart, and then the total that have an increase on this last line here with number of adults with any income. And that's what the percentage is going to be on your scoring sheet, and then on your APR in general. And it's the same thing for the exits. So we had 22 people exit the program, adults, and then 3 of them had an increase when they exited. Okay. And then so that would be 14% for those clients. And like I said, you can double check all of that. If you click this number, it'll show you who's in there. If you click that, it'll show you how many people retained that had the same category. So you can go in and make sure that that's the right number, or that their income has been updated to what it should be. We do have an issue in the COC with people not updating SSI and SSDI for clients timely. And that's one of the things we try to look at when we do our system performance measures, because, you know, that's one of the measures is income. And I think every year we underreport that because for whatever reason, not everybody updates that the way they're supposed to. I'm not gonna say anybody's name, but we have an issue with people not updating that. And if the Social Security just went up in general, then there should be no reason not to have a higher percentage of increase in the number of adults with other income, because that's just going in there and putting the end date on the old amount and adding a new amount every year. So obviously the earned income is more challenging, but there's some clients in here that haven't been updated for a long time with their SSI stuff, that have like amounts that was like the basic amount 2 or 3 years ago. So I just want to mention that since we were on this section. So yeah, that's how those income sections work. And all of that is in that same interims section with the annual assessment. So when you do the annual assessment, it'll come up with the income. And when you put that date in, or you do an update, then all of the new income will be applied to whatever date you use for the annual assessment, or that updated date. Okay. Question 19B is disabling conditions of income for adults at exit. They've never really explained what they're doing with this information. This might actually not be on the next APR. So we're just gonna slide past that and go to 20A and 20B, which is the non-cash benefits for leavers and stayers. So 6B of the scoring sheet is mainstream resources, non-cash resources. So the 20B breaks down how many clients, stayers and leavers had non-cash benefits. Okay, so there's 47 of these clients have at least one source of non-cash benefits. 11 leavers do out of the 23. So this works the same as the income as far as the data not collected, not stayed long enough for annual assessment. So if the clients haven't made their anniversary date, it's not going to populate the people here that's in this category. So when you're filling out the sheet, you want to use the top number here. You want to use the so to be whatever this adds up to, because this category data not collected, not stayed long enough, it's not gonna fill in for those clients at all. So if they haven't reached the anniversary date, then you just combine these two numbers, and that's what you should put on that chart. Because if you put this 100 and you put the 47, it's going to calculate the percentage based on these extra 34 people that's haven't been there long enough to calculate the measure. So just make a note of that when you get to 6B on the scoring sheet for non-cash resources. Okay. 21 is health insurance. That is section 6A of the scoring sheet. Our measure is insurance or have Medicaid or other insurance within 3 months of entry. This report isn't designed to do that. So HMIS manually ran a report that filled that in for everybody. When we sent that to Unity, once you look at it, if you see what your score is, we have the report that we can show people, or we can provide to anybody who wants to take a look at the clients that may not have insurance in case the data is wrong. So there was a few clients that had yes for the question about did they have insurance, but actually didn't have the insurance type in the assessment. So based on how the data is supposed to work, we may have marked those people as no for having insurance within 90 days. But the question may have said yes, but without the type in there, we didn't give credit for those that had yes without the actual insurance type there. So once you take a look at that, if you don't have points in there for whatever reason, and you want to know who was in the measure that caused you to lose points in that insurance section, just let us know and we'll give that to you so you can review those clients. But so this is based on annual assessment and LEBA. So this won't give you what you need, even if you ran it for the 90 days. It's just not gonna work. So we had to manually pull those together. All right. 22A is the length of participation, and it just shows how many people been in the program total, and then leavers and stayers, how long clients were in the program, just in general. And then 22B is the average and median length of participation overall. 22C is the length of time between project start date and move-in date. I think that's question 1 on the scoring sheet, which is the length of time persons remain homeless. So it shows you how many clients based on the entry date and that move-in date, how many moved in 7 days or less from the project entry, how many moved in 8 to 14 days, 15 to 21 days, 22 to 30 days. So you want to add everybody from 22 to 30, from 7 days or less to 22 to 30. Okay, so those are going to be the clients that you're going to get credit for. So it's 30 days or less, right? So as long as they're from 30 days, between the 7 and 30, you're good. You won't get credit for anybody past 31 to however long those days were. Okay. And then it'll just show you how many people moved in the housing, the average length of time for for all the clients in your program. So this one will be like 19 days. And then it'll show you if anybody exited without a move-in. And then that's just your total based on like the number of adults that had a move-in date. Okay. There's a length of time measure for, well, let me not do that yet. Let me get past this right fast. 22E is just a length of time based on the approximate date homelessness started. This is not on the scoring sheet, but on behalf of the HMIS team who has to do the system performance measures, we're really trying to look at these dates to make sure that people are putting them in accurately, because the longer you put the date here, then that increases our length of time measure for the system performance. So it's supposed to be the current episode. So like if you had a client that's been homeless for a year, even if they've had previous instances of homelessness, it's not an accumulation of all the dates that the person has been homeless. It's this particular episode. They're actually rewording this question on the new data standards to say this current episode. Um, so maybe that'll help this out a little bit. But like if a person says they started, they first started, their homelessness started in 2005, you don't put 2005 here. You put the current time that they're homeless, whatever approximate date that is. Since we're here, I just wanted to throw that in there. Especially with so many clients going straight from coordinated entry into PSH, because when that happens, if there's not a shelter stay or whatever, and they go straight from the street to PSH, whatever the PSH program puts in there for the approximate date gets pulled into the overall system measure. And so that's the date that we need. That's the dates that we are updating and reviewing. Okay. Um, all right. So I just want to throw that in. That's not on the scoring sheet, but I wanted to add that just in general because that's a personal pet peeve of mine. All right, let's keep going to the exit destinations, which just shows basically how many clients went to permanent housing, how many went to temporary settings, um, and how many went to institutional settings. That is on the score sheet. Looks to be question 5, section 5 on the scoring sheet. Okay. So obviously you get credit for all the people here in permanent destination, right? So anybody goes to a permanent destination, you're going to get credit for those based on how many people exit. Temporary destinations, you don't get any credit for the temporary destinations if they're in a housing program and they went to a temporary, or any program they went to temporary destination. Then you have your institutional settings, foster care, hospital, substance abuse, jail, long-term nursing facility, and then you have your clients that's deceased, don't know, refused, what have you. Okay. Um, and then this report will actually give you the percentage of people that have a positive outcome. So this report would be 93%. This 6 excluded from the calculation is the 6 deceased clients. So they don't calculate the deceased clients in there. I think if they're a long-term care facility, those are excluded from the calculation as well. So you don't lose credit for anybody that went to like a long-term care facility or anything like that. So they automatically take those clients out of the equation. So this 93% would be, I guess, 35 minus the 6. So that's 29. So it's 27 out of 29 is giving them the 93%. So those are going to get filled into section 5. What did I miss on section 5? So they also have 22A1 on section 5. I didn't realize that. Let me see. 22A1 is the length of participation. You're going to have to put in the stairs at the end of the year, which is going to be this number here. And then the leavers in 180 days or less, which would be these first 4 categories on the leavers. So it's going to be add the 30, 31, 61, and the 90 to 180. That's going to be in section 5 as well. I'm not sure how that calculates, but that's where the data is coming from. So 23 though is the destinations, and that's based on what you put in at exit. For transitional housing, safe haven, and all of the coordinated entry related grants, there's a measure on the scoring that has people that exited to permanent housing in a certain time frame. I know it's like 30 days, 45 days, 160 days based on the category. I'm not looking at all the sheets right in front of me. We manually calculated those for everybody because the APR doesn't do that. So you'll be able to do how many people went to permanent housing from question 23, but I manually calculated the time for those people. So then you may already get the sheet with that filled out already. So I just want to let you know where that came from. And if you don't get full points in that section and you want me to review the data that I ran to get that, I can show it to you. But if you get the full points, don't worry about asking me about it because it's I got to put a few things together to make it happen. So if you don't get the full points, though, you want to know why, I can help you with that. So that is basically the last section of the APR that's going to be affecting anything, because 25 on down is like subpopulation data. They're actually taking that all off the new APR anyway, and we don't really use that for anything. So question 23 will be the last section that you need for the scoring sheet in order to be able to fill it out. I'm just scrolling through the scoring sheet here, make sure I didn't leave anything out. No, I think that I covered everything. I know Shakur has been answering some questions in the chat, but if anybody has some direct questions or specific questions, I'm open to answer those. Shakur, can people can come off mute, or you gotta do that? Not that anybody's trying to ask me anything, but just in case.
They should be able to come off mute.
Okay. All right, because I see a lot of people on mute. I don't know if you did that or not.
The only question you maybe can answer on video is a person's asking specifically if people within emergency shelter need to do an annual assessment.
Within emergency shelter?
Yes.
It depends on the shelter. If you get funding from the city for ESG, then yes, if they've been there that long, because they have to do the CAPA report for ESG, and all of that works the same on the CAPA when it comes to the annual assessment. So if they've been there a year, then yes. If it's not tied to any federal reporting, you don't necessarily need to do it because it won't pull their information in anywhere. The income measure for the system performance only pulls in income from housing programs. So it doesn't pull in income from shelters or coordinated entry or any other programs. It only pulls in the HUD funded PSH and rapid programs for income. So those are the main ones that needs to do the annual assessment. I'm looking through here. I think we answered everything that's in the chat.
Actually, just got one in the chat. Just to be clear, when someone gains an income within months of entering a shelter, when will we see the credit for it? We put it in as soon as we are informed.
So it depends on the client. Okay, if you put it in, all right, so if you put the income in and the client exits the program, you get credit for it whenever that client exits the program. If the client is like 90 days old into the program and you put the income in at 90 days, you won't get credit until the client has been in the program a year. So even if they've gained the income during the current reporting year, if they've only been in the program for 90 days or 6 months, then their income won't show up on the APR yet because they technically that client hasn't reached the anniversary date. And you don't want them to do that anyway, because if they gave you credit for clients that got income before the anniversary date, you would also get dinged for clients that didn't have income in the reported period as well. So like for a newer program or for somebody that took a lot of new referrals in for the year, if you had 20 new clients and it just so happened that you took all 20 in 2 months before your grant year ended, you don't want them to calculate those extra 20 people because they haven't been there long enough for you to really work with or do anything or get them an increase in income. So that's why this report that's why it's the annual progress report, because it's only, it's giving you a year to update their income. So, but you want to put it in when it's there. So when when you get ready to do your reports or the annual assessment or what have you, it's already in place. But as far as like any reporting, it won't appear until that client has an annual assessment or if they exit the program. So I'm looking through this chat. So like Camilla, if you have somebody in Rapid and they stay for 9 months, then because 12 months in a year, right? So if they leave in 9 months or 6 months and they were in Rapid and they got an increase, then you'll get credit for them in that same reporting period. That'll be immediate. If they stay past a year, then you won't get credit until they get to a year. Emily, I think the sheets will be out today. The whole purpose of this meeting, I scheduled this meeting. I was supposed to do this trading the day after the sheets came out. I think I'm a little ahead of the sheets, but they should be out today. Hope Valerie don't get mad because I said today. So the one I'm looking at is just like a draft. That's why I was saying what section it's in. So this is, but I think they're sending out everything today. So you should have it today. See, Robbie just said it'll be today. Thank you, Robbie. I'm not aware of the extra incentive. If Robbie or somebody at Unity want to speak on that, they can. But Paisley try to set me up, Shakol.
Cliff, I'm going to pull up my calendar real quick.
Okay, you do that.
Hang on 1 second.
Can you just say prior? if turned in prior to the 28th, you receive extra bonus points. Oh, there you go. It's 28 days. Staying out of this. I'm staying out of this deadline bonus points discussion on purpose. Does anybody have any other like program specific related questions without naming any clients or anything like that that they want to ask me? Because this a good time because I had to schedule till 12. I don't mind ending early, but I'm a disappear after this training for a little while. So if you got a question, you might want to ask me now before, it'll be hard to find me after this. So it's a 28 by 5 p.m. Is that
No,
what
no, it's actually the 25th. Friday, August the 25th. Bonus points for the submission for the renewal. The 28th is when we have to actually start posting it up.
Yeah, we're gonna make the recording available time probably today or tomorrow, probably.
Excuse me, Cliff. Robbie, can you send me that calendar? Because the one we received had the 28th on it. I just want to make sure we're putting the right dates on and stuff.
Are you saying the 28th of September or the 28th of August?
August.
Okay, yeah, that's incorrect. Yeah, I'll send you the calendar.
Yeah, because the one that we have, it has the 28th on it.
Okay.
So that's why I insist on saying the 28th. But please send me the corrected version because I have Jonathan working on issuing out the applications now. And I want to make sure that the correct date is on there.